What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Hope you guys are having a great holiday weekend. Hope you guys stay safe, stay warm, all that. I know in my state it's going to be cold, but I'm here to help you guys make some decisions on some of your plays for this Christmas Eve slate. I know it's all about spending time with family, watching football all day. That's what it comes down to. So let's get into it. So these are players that you want to target in cash, head-to-head 50s. You could play in tournaments, but these are more safer plays to play in, basically just trying to double up your account. So Patrick Mahomes against Seattle is my pay-up guy right now. I think he stands out as the guy that I want to pay up for if I am going to pay up for somebody. 8,400 against Seattle. We know how good Seattle's offense has been. Usually able to push the ball. Without Tyler Lockett, it's going to be interesting, but they still have DK Metcalf. Ken Walker supposed to be there. Their tight ends are used. Marquise Goodwin, another option there. But Kansas City's offense, I think they're one of the very few offenses in the league that are consistently putting 20-plus points up a game. You hardly ever see them have a game where they don't look natural. Even when they almost lost to Houston, their offense still put up points. Even if it did come towards the end, they still put up 20-plus points, and that's what you want in a slate like this. So Patrick Mahomes against Seattle, the amount of weapons he has is crazy. Guy I'm looking at. Kirk Cousins against the Giants at 6,300. We all know the Giants secondary is not great. Minnesota, a little slow, but, the greatest comeback in NFL history happened. Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Thielen, even Osborne getting some usage, Hawkinson. There's a lot of weapons there for the Vikings against a very shaky Giants secondary. Next on the list, we have Geno Smith, 5,800 against Kansas City, kind of what I mentioned earlier. Kansas City secondary, I think, is going back to that point of being the weak spot of that team. And Geno Smith leading a top 10 scoring offense somehow, some way. So he is another play, especially he gets his rushing here and there. So that's always a +2. Plus, if Kansas City's able to score and they take a big lead, Seattle's going to throw the ball a lot. And then on the other side, yet again, Daniel Jones against Minnesota, 5,600. Minnesota secondary, the Colts put up over 30 points, but a lot of it wasn't offensively. It was all defense and special teams. Daniel Jones, he gets rushing. That's why you like someone like Daniel Jones. And against Minnesota, who gives up a lot of passing, mobile quarterbacks are able to get some yards against his team. That's what you look for. So 5,600 Daniel Jones is a play. I like Jared Goff for a tournament. That's a name I'm going to throw out there. I think Jared Goff, what he's able to do fantasy point wise, is crazy. Really like that play. And then last but not least is my guy that I've hyped up for and will continue to hype him up. Just continue. Is Gardner Minshew. I really hope he shines out in this next game. Hopefully, I've mentioned it before. Unfortunately for Eagles fans, I want Gardner Minshew to play the rest of the season. There's no need to play Jalen Hurts. Get it, he's your starting quarterback. You don't want him to be rusty. You don't want him to get seriously hurt. That is what you want. You need to win, I think, 1 out of the next 3 games. If that, if Minnesota ends up losing, I think Philly just needs to win 1 and they lock in the bye. You're giving Gardner Minshew and your very, very depth, great team a chance. All they need to do is win 1 game. Sit Hurts, let Minshew rock. Good division game here against Dallas. I'm very interested to see how that goes. Minshew's always been very efficient. 4,800. That's the last quarterback for cash plays. Running backs, yes. Christian McCaffrey against Washington, going to be used a lot. I think Brock Purdy understands that he has one of the best running backs in today's NFL. Use him. That's what he does. Derrick Henry against Houston. If you're not playing Derrick Henry tomorrow, if the only way Derrick Henry does not explode is if he gets hurt. This is Derrick Henry in the back half of the season. We know Tennessee relies on him. Ryan Tannehill being out means Derrick Henry. Malik Willis will, almost like Brock Purdy does, use his running back, his all-pro running back, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Use him. Saquon Barkley, 79, yes, against Minnesota. I will play that. The Giants run their offense around Saquon Barkley. Dalvin Cook, 7,200, another running back that we're paying up for. Kind of where you make your decision on who you want as your quarterback. But Dalvin Cook, 7,200 in that game. I really like his usage and his volume in that kind of game script. Alvin Kamara at 6,800 against Cleveland. Cleveland, very bad against the run. We know this. Alvin Kamara starting to get some of that volume, like more consistent volume. And we've seen some of the matchups he's had. I mean, against Atlanta, only 12 fantasy points. But, I mean, look at who he's played. Pittsburgh. The Rams, who, is what it is. I'd still say they're a good team against the run. San Fran, Tampa Bay, and then Atlanta, who's been fairly good against the run. This is probably one of his best game scripts that he's had in a while. If he succeeds, it is on him. The matchup is very good. I like Alvin Kamara a lot in that game. Then we continue to go down. Jerick McKinnon, 5,900. I mean, back-to-back 30 fantasy point games. More expensive than Pacheco, and rightfully so. Definitely on my list. J.K. Dobbins at 5,800 is another play for me. Really like that matchup against Atlanta, and he just runs the ball so good. I really hope he stays healthy. He's very fun to watch. Devin Singletary here at 5,400 against Chicago. It's going to be freezing cold. They're going to run the ball. That's what they're going to do. 5,400 getting volume. Devin Singletary, yes. Deontay Foreman, 5,300. I would like him a whole lot if they did not use Chuba Hubbard as much as they have been. But he's another play to where I'm looking at. Wide receivers. Yes, Justin Jefferson against Minnesota or against the Giants. If you could afford it, go for it. The way that some of my lineups have been drawing out, it's very hard to get Justin Jefferson. Stephon Diggs, I'm going to avoid the Buffalo wide receivers. I do think it's a good matchup, but it is cold and windy, and that's not what you want in a game like that for Stephon Diggs. Keep going down. A.J. Brown against Dallas, yes. We all saw what Gardner Minshew did last year. He was able to move the ball in the air efficiently. 8,100 against Dallas. At Dallas, yes, I understand. I like A.J. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7,800. Yes, another one. Against Carolina secondary, who's banged up for the most part. And Jared Goff with getting Jameson Williams back. Not back, but just there. Makes Amon-Ra that much better. That pass game is very good. I like that. Keep going on. DK Metcalf against Kansas City. Yes, 7,100. This is a play I like. This is like the Browns, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, like if you can afford to pay up for him. But if you're like, what is my cutoff? DK Metcalf against Kansas City. That's your cutoff. That is like, yes, 71. That's your highest paid up wide receiver. I'm okay with that. We continue to go down. Juju against Seattle. I like Juju. I normally don't like Juju Smith just because there's so many weapons in Kansas City. But Juju is definitely a play for me. DJ Moore, 5,500 against Detroit. Yes, definitely a play for me there as well. Slayton against Minnesota at 5,200. I like Slayton. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good tournament play. But we'll mention another name shortly instead of him. I still think he's a very good play. We continue to go down on this. Watching injury status for some of these guys. Collins on the IR for Houston. Chris Moore, Brandon Cooks, both of them questionable. If one of them ends up being in, then yes, they become playable for me even in cash. Treylon Burks, same thing. Watching for his injury news. Becomes playable for me. Jacoby Myers, the same thing. Those guys, I'm just waiting for the injury status to decide if I do end up really liking them for tomorrow. Now we go to Richie James down here at 3,900 against Minnesota. I like Richie James. Kind of one of those guys that just found his way to the field. Injuries happened, and he rose to the lineup and then made the most of it. But a good matchup, a good price point, 3,900. Richie James. Another name that I will find down here shortly, or maybe I did pass him up. I did. Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay out, which means Robinson easily becomes the number 1 guy now. He's put up some pretty consistent fantasy points, being the one of the most targeted guys. Has a good matchup against Atlanta. Really like that play. Jameson Williams, I'm going to throw it out there. I love Jameson Williams. He's probably one of my favorite young wide receivers, even though he's a division rival. Still like him, 3,700. I think he's a good tournament play. Then for tight ends, Travis Kelce at 8,000 against one of the worst defenses against tight ends. That is a decision you want to make, is if you want to play Travis Kelce, who, if you look at his fantasy numbers, like, he had a couple rough weeks, gets a really good matchup against Houston, has a really good matchup against Seattle now. Do you want to pay up for Travis Kelce? Because if you pay up for Travis Kelce, there's a good shot you're paying up for Mahomes as well. And that takes a lot of budget. So that's a decision that's going to be a big cash, decider tomorrow. Do you go on the side of Kelce and Mahomes and they succeed and you do well? Or do you not? And then if they succeed, do you have points enough to compete with that? Or if they don't play well, which usually doesn't happen, but it does happen, you end up cashing, I'd say. So Mark Andrews against Atlanta is another one. I still don't like him as much without Lamar, but still play nonetheless. TJ Hawkinson here at 4,900 is another play for me. And then we just go down Okinawa. I hope I keep saying his name right. 3,500, 3 straight games of 10-plus fantasy points. And only 1 touchdown in those 3 games. So definitely becomes a fantasy play. Keep going down. Hunter Henry, I said Hunter Henry, Juanu Smith, with the injuries that the New England wide receivers are facing. Both those guys become plays for me. Other than that, there's not a lot of names that really stand out. Bellinger is a tournament play, but that's about it. Defenses, it just whatever you can afford, in my opinion. I personally like the Commanders' defense. I like Brock Purdy. I think the 49ers, offensively, defensively, one of the best teams in the league. Watching the news with Chase Young, haven't seen it, so that's on me for not seeing it. I like their defense. If Chase Young's there, I really like their defense there. The Texans' defense is another one against Tennessee. Yes, I know Derrick Henry is going to run against them, and that's a tough decision to make, but you got to realize if Treylon Burks is out, they have Malik Willis, who, gave the Chiefs a run for their money. And the Texans' defense is not anything that's scary. But we've seen the last 2 weeks against 2 playoff contending teams, 5 and 7 points. Tennessee, also a playoff contending team, saves you some money to pay up for some of the other players. So that's kind of where I'm at in that aspect. If you can afford the Bills defense, go for the Bills defense at 4K. But if you need to save a pretty penny, those are the teams I'm targeting. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. That means a lot to me. If you guys are interested in joining us, the link for that will be in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one.